And as I said, I'm Keely Nixon. I'm a program lead with FarmLINK. As a farmer myself, I'm here in BC. So anyone else from BC, thanks for joining us early and on a stat holiday. I'm delighted to host this webinar series on behalf of FarmLINK. For those of you who are unfamiliar with it, FarmLink's an online platform for land listing, resources, and connecting both farm seekers and landowners. We've been running for over 9 years now, and we just had launched our updated platform as of January after about a year and a half of planning. So it's up there. If you haven't taken a look, please do look around, as well as I know Tara will reference likely some of the resources in the database, which we're working on some improved functionality this week, so bear with us. We're pleased to offer this our parent organization, which is FarmStart, the Digging It Into Farming as a webinar series now. We're launching, this is at number 2 out of 4, and we wanted to welcome everyone to today's on the marketing strategy. There's 2 others that are coming up, financial management on February 27th and loans and financing on March 13th. The registration is limited to 100 people, so you can check them out on our page, and although free, we ask that you register. Again, if you just had missed that, this webinar will be recorded, or it currently is, and we'll have it on our website as well. So our presenter today is Tara Young. Tara runs Green Bean Farm in Ontario with her husband Nathan. The farm produces vegetables as well as pastured pork, poultry, eggs, grass-fed lamb, and beef. Green Bean Farm is devoted to embodying organic and humane principles while remaining economically viable. Tara holds a degree in environmental biology from the University of Guelph and teaches livestock husbandry for Fleming College in the Sustainable Agriculture Program. With that, Tara, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can introduce yourself and really the topic. And we'll launch right into it. We're at 3 minutes after noon, and we're going to try and go right to 1. Thanks anyone who's left message in the comment box. I'll try and message you as well, and we'll get everyone's audio
Okay,
working.
maybe I could just get someone to say that they can hear me. Yep, okay, good. All right, welcome everybody. Good. Hopefully those of you who are still having trouble can hear me soon. And we will get started. So, marketing. I love marketing. A lot of you are just in the planning stages, or maybe even just in the considering farming as a career kind of stage. And it sounds like some of you are actually actively producing right now. So regardless of where you're at, my belief is that the sooner you start thinking about your marketing strategy, the better. Because as the saying goes, you can produce the best produce in the world, but if you have trouble finding a market for it, you will not fare as well as somebody who only produces mediocre food but is a really good marketer. I had a student once who more or less replicated a few of the enterprises that we had on our farm, the production strategy right down to the way they were packaged. And I've seen and I've tasted some of his products. I've even bought some. So I know that they were good, but he really struggled to sell all of his products, even though they were things for which there was good demand in the marketplace, like pastured pork, pastured turkey, that kind of thing. And a lot of that food ended up sitting in his freezers for quite a while. And, next season rolls around and you start thinking about all the effort that went into producing it. It can be quite demoralizing to see your food perish because you didn't find a market for it. It's really not about producing it and then finding a market for it. You have to know, and this goes for a large scale cash cropper or somebody operating on a much smaller scale. You got to know where your food is going to be sold before you even put a seed in the ground. Often farmers are operating on quite fine margins, and you cannot afford to just let food rot. Now, if you have questions, I will be taking them near the end, but if there's something I've clearly omitted, or you need instant clarification, just type in your question, and I'll try to get to those. Otherwise, I'll address questions near the end. So figuring out how you're going to promote and sell your food is just as important as figuring out how you plan on producing it. So as a small farmer, do you need a marketing degree in order to find purchasers? And fortunately, no. It might help, but this is a quote about marketing. If you're passionate about something, then marketing is just about finding a way to convey your passion to the right group of people. And usually farmers are pretty passionate about what they do. We're in this because we love it. And you're probably really excited about what you do. If you're not, then you may want to consider your career choice, because passion has to fuel you through those really, really hard days, weeks, and years. And I know for us, if I just get a chance to talk to people about why our food is so amazing, I feel like being able to really share that is it's kind of the best job I can do as a marketer. So, what would a market strategy look like? What is that all about? I know that when we got started, we moved onto our farm just about 10 years ago. We started our own business, my husband Nathan and I, a year prior to that. So we kind of incubated our business on another farm before we decided, before we found our own farm. And part of choosing where to look for a farm was based on our market research. And I remember being very daunted by that term, like market research. What does that mean? But it's kind of fun, and you can get very creative with it, but it's very, very critical because you'll learn a lot. So really what all market research is doing, figuring out who your customers will be, what they want, how much of it you can produce, when will you sell your product, where will you sell your product, and at what price. So that's what market research is. So, who your customers will be, what is the demographic that will be the most interested in your product? I know that when we got started, there was a really defined demographic for organic food. It was middle and upper class educated people. And fortunately, that's really changed. It's really broadened. But when we started looking at where to farm, we actually went to a reference library rather, in Toronto, and the librarian helped us find the appropriate, this sounds so old-fashioned, but helped us find the appropriate references, and we were able to search cities and towns and kind of see which ones have the highest median income and the highest level of post-secondary education. Like I said, in the end, that's really changed. Anyhow, what features of the product might people be looking for? So, is quality the most important thing? If it's fresh vegetables, quality is huge, obviously. But depending on your market, quality might be of moderate importance or of extreme importance. If you're selling to a high-end restaurant, quality will be everything. Is the fact that it's locally grown going to be important? Are there any certifications around what you're producing that are important, like organic? That question of should I certify? Well, part of what will inform that answer is how important is it to my market. We do community-supported agriculture. We sell directly to our members. We have farm tours, and it's actually not that important for us to have certification because our market doesn't need it. They can actually liaise directly with the farmer, which is more important to them than the label. How much can you produce? Not just like how much can you, but how much should you? You only want to produce what you can confidently sell. You want to find out, is there room for more of what you want to produce in the marketplace, or is the marketplace already saturated? And are there any regulations that will limit what you can produce, such as the supply managed commodities that we spoke of last week, such as turkey, chicken, layer hens, and dairy? When will you sell your product? So when will demand match with harvest dates or slaughter dates? For example, with lamb, we do grass-fed lamb, but if you are looking to get the best price for lamb, a lot of people time their production so that their lamb is ready in the spring, because that's when most There's a lot of religious holidays celebrated by many cultures in the spring, and they're looking for lamb. So things like that, you can easily find a market in the spring for lamb, which does not work at all with the grass-fed system, but just as an example. Can your product be stored? So can you hang on to inventory so that you will have it when the demand is there? Where will you sell your product? So this is a big question. Will you be selling direct to customers or wholesale? And if you instinctively can tell that you're going to be a small farmer, then probably you'll be looking at direct. But I worked on lots of farms that would classify as small farms, and they chose to do some wholesaling as well. And if you do go the wholesale route, are you working with a distributor? Are you working with wholesaling to a restaurant, independent grocers, etc.? And of course, at what price? So how do you establish your price? That's really the topic of the next webinar, figuring out your cost of production. But when you're doing your market research, this is the time where you'll be figuring out what your competition is selling their products for. Because although you never ever want to copy someone's price, just because their cost of production will be different than yours, it's a good benchmark. And if when you figure out what you need to sell your product for, and it's triple the price of the competition, then you need to adjust your production methods or try producing something else. So that's market research. So as an example, if you decided you wanted to produce high-end vegetables for high-end restaurants in the Greater Toronto area, or any big city, Vancouver, Montreal, that kind of thing, let's answer those questions that you need to do when you're doing your market research. Who should you be talking to? Well, if you could all raise your hands and I picked one of you, you probably know the answer is that you would be talking to chefs. They will be your buyers. So what are they looking for? What do these customers want? So, what is on trend right now that they really, can't get enough of? And how much of it do they want? Restaurants often, and every restaurant is different, but in general, restaurants are looking for more wholesale type pricing, unless they're quite, an upscale restaurant, but don't always want wholesale quantities. So that it can be kind of a gray area. Now, when do they want it? Are they open 7 days a week? What day do they expect shipments? Usually, this question of when they want it is something that you don't tell the chefs tell you. Some farms that cater to high-end restaurants will offer delivery within 24 hours because that's what suits the chefs. And you will be liaised with a courier company to make sure that they're getting what they want when they want it. And where do they want it? Well, likely right to the restaurant, of course. And do you plan on delivering yourself, or do you want to work with a delivery service? Or in our area, there's actually a produce auction that chefs go to, and there's also a distributor called 100kilometerfoods.com, and I'll just type that into the search bar. Just if you are in Ontario and you're interested. This is a small-scale distributor that connects chefs and local farmers. And of course, what price? So as I was saying, do some looking around at what other similar operations are selling for, and understand that there's sometimes gray area between wholesale and direct marketing with restaurants. All right, so let's delve in a little bit deeper to some of these market research questions. So other than your customers, who else could you be talking to figure out the answers to these questions? Other farmers is a great one, of course. And the more you can network with other farmers, the better. And nationally, there are all kinds of ecological farmer associations that if you're getting used to the scene, make sure you get connected with those. provincial agriculture ministries. I was just looking this morning at an Ontario Ministry of Agriculture fact sheet on marketing. Stats Canada. Stats Canada is where I found all of the data regarding doing my demographic research, so they can help you there. Commodity organizations. So practically every commodity that you could produce, there's an organization attached to it. So maple syrup, there's a maple syrup organization. Egg organization, all of that. Various farm associations and local economic development offices might also be able to help you out. In terms of speaking with other farmers, even if you can't speak to them directly, thank goodness there's the internet. This is just a screenshot of Cookstown Greens. So this would have been the first farm to really nail direct from farm to restaurant sales. And they were really the first farm to ever bring the concept of mixed greens to Ontario, maybe even Canada. And so you can see right there, there's actually a button you can click for chefs. I know that personally I get a couple price lists every week from various distributors just so I can keep my finger on the pulse of what my products are going for from other producers. And so figuring out what your customers are really looking for. So ask yourself the question, what makes your product unique in the marketplace? And what are the benefits to the customer of your product or service? Because when you start sharing information about your products or services to the world, what is it that makes you so special? You know what? And it might actually be you. Lots of people really connect with their farmer and develop an affinity towards that person and just want to support them. And it doesn't work like that in the wholesale industry. That is something that you can only really benefit from with direct marketing. And that's one thing I really love about direct marketing, is getting a chance to really connect with your customers. Because when they can see you as a human being, it doesn't just become about price. You have this whole world opens up where you can really connect with people. So just using my Kuni pigs as an example, what makes this product unique in the marketplace? Are these just pigs? Is it just pork? These are the only pigs able to finish on grass alone. And so eaters recognize the immense health benefits of grass-fed meats. And there's no ceiling right now on the demand for grass-fed beef. Also, I sell these live animals to farmers to raise, and farmers are recognizing the economic benefits of a grass-only diet. They don't have to purchase feed, which is can be very expensive. In both, eaters and farmers recognize the more sustainable ecological footprint of a pig that just eats grass. So, figuring out what is really unique about these animals, it's not just that they're pigs. So figuring out, ask yourself the question, what is it that people really want? This is a farm in Albany, New York, and the actual farm's name is World's End, and they run a business called Saipua. Their whole business grew out of a want. These farmers were actually in the floral business. This is a floral company. And during the 2008 recession, they stopped seeing a lot of the unique flowers that they liked to use. And so that actually prompted them to start their own farm and fill that need, fill that want. So now they have this very unique skill set where once they've figured out how to farm and grow those flowers, they can offer floral design workshops, weddings, all that kind of stuff. So they're not just selling flowers. I mean, look at some of the stuff they do. If you actually go to their website or check them out on Instagram, you'll be blown away. If you're looking for really chic, current marketing kind of visual strategies, they're gorgeous. So basically, they were in an industry. They needed something and decided to fill their own needs by producing this really unique product. This is Landman Gardens. They're in Grand Valley, Ontario. And for the most, a great farm. They run a CSA. They produce meat. They have a bakery. So on the baker, in the bakery, they can do value-added stuff, baked goods, preserves, that kind of thing. But that doesn't set them apart, I don't think. What really sets them apart is they have a place where I think, oh, I'm drawing a blank. It's called a black house. It's an old blacksmith shop on their farm. Like, you can see the photo there on the bottom. It's so they serve meals out of there. So the thing that they recognize that people want are authentic on-farm experiences. And so you can rent this out and book a meal. And of course, all of the food that you're eating is coming from the farm or coming from another local farm. And of course, when you go and you have this amazing meal, you get to see the farm first, and then no doubt when you leave, you're loading up on preserves and bread and all of that stuff, and you're bringing your friends, and so you have great word of mouth marketing going on there. This is Minami Farm in Metchosin, BC. So again, the want here is that a real need or a desire for Japanese varieties that were grown locally. And you see this throughout Canada, that there's a lot of varieties of vegetables that are native to other parts of the world that can be grown here. And as the diversity of Canada is expanding, being able to access these vegetables becomes really important. And also, when you can have them fresh, local, organic, you kind of have the market cornered. So they've been doing this for quite a while, and demand is not just within the Japanese population, but everyone is interested in trying their vegetables. Okay, so that is what people want. How? Lots of questions around how. How much can you produce? How much do your customers want? We produce freezer meat for the freezer. Some of the folks I know who do the same have meat CSAs. And so that question of, well, how much do customers want? If you're going to be giving people every month a bunch of meat, how do you figure out exactly how much chicken people eat in a month, how much beef, how much lamb, etc.? So that, and you can figure those answers out. It just takes some research. The question of how do you get your product or service to the market, and how might you make it easier for the customer to buy your product or service. So sometimes the thing that's going to set you apart is not that your corn is the sweetest or your beef is the most tender, but that you can make it very easy for people to get your food. I know of a farm in our area that does not produce the best food, but you can order anything online, and by the next day, practically, it's at your front door. And so that's where this farm does very well. This is Plan B, Organic Farms, and another Ontario farm. And sorry, there's a few more. It's a little bit unbalanced, my examples this week. But these are farms that I know personally. So they sell food boxes, and they start at about $35 a week. And it's like a CSA share, but they don't produce all of the vegetables. They produce some of them, and then a bunch of them come from other local farms that they work with. But they deliver. So rather than going out to the farm to pick up, they have, I think, 16 different pickup locations. This farm does, on average, about 650 veggie boxes a week. But if you're busy and you don't want to go to a pickup location, for an extra $5, you can have home delivery. And so that's how they solve that how problem of how are people going to get it. People will happily pay $5 more to have the food delivered to their front door. And what people wanted in this instance was a connection to the farm, but they didn't necessarily want to have to leave their home to get it. So this was a very astute move for Plan B. So where will you sell your product? The question of direct market versus wholesale. Farmers basically have two options to market. You can either sell directly to the consumer, or you can wholesale through various middle entities that might process it, package it, retail it. They might export it. And at every level in the value chain, there's an opportunity for somebody to make a profit. And Usually that means that you don't receive the full retail dollar of your product. But if you're so busy producing and that's what you love to do and you want to produce lots, then it's a smart move to go the wholesale route. But you usually have to be producing in a significant enough on a significant enough scale to be efficient enough to compete on a price point level, because with wholesale it's all about pricing. Um, this is Thatcher Farms. They are outside of Guelph, Ontario, and they are direct marketers, and they do a fantastic job. Um, they really took advantage of their proximity to a nearby city, and so they built an on-farm retail store, and it's beautiful, as you can see. Everything they do is beautiful. They have a farmers market stand. It is gorgeous. It's much nicer than any of their competitors. And another thing that I think they really understand is how important it is to have friendly staff. Wherever, whether it's at the market or in the store, the staff are wonderful. The owners tend to know almost everybody's names, so they're really building that connection. They do butchering classes, and they do Christmas baking. They have ice cream in the summer at the store. There's a playground for the kids, so they've really made the farm a destination. And so they decided when they went that direct marketing route, and they knew they could draw a market from nearby cities to really go that route. By contrast, we have I don't want people on my farm every day, and I really value my privacy. And when you're thinking back to when you were asking yourself all those questions about quality of life, core values, that kind of thing, do you want your farm to be open to the public? Maybe you really do, and maybe you really don't. So build a marketing plan that is consistent with your values and your goals. It is not necessarily just as simple as going the direct marketing route and assuming you're going to earn the full retail dollar without having to incur some costs. So these are just some of the hidden costs of direct marketing. As the marketer, you have to do some marketing. You have to speak to people, whether it's face-to-face, whether it's over email. There was a time when I was building the business that I was spending about 30% of my time at the computer building my market. If somebody has just found us and wants to come see the farm, then I give them a farm tour, answer all of their questions, really hold their hands, and I'm happy to do that because usually the outcome is that those people become really dedicated customers. The transportation, if you are the distributor, that takes time. You need the appropriate vehicle, for example, the amount of time that it takes to go to markets. I've worked on farms that do, say, 3 markets a week, and my job on a particular farm that I'm talking about was just the marketing manager, and I was on the road all the time. And if you're going to be a smaller farm and try to do a lot of markets, just recognize that the more time you spend at a market, the less time you spend on the farm. The waste. So what are you going to do with any product that you cannot sell? And it's something to factor into your pricing, and it's also something to factor into your market strategy. So I worked on a farm that had about 300 members, CSA members, but they also did 3 farmers markets. But at the beginning of the week, it was we harvested for the CSA members, and then whatever we had excess of went to the farmers markets. And so they were sort of the second tier. They didn't get everything that the CSA members got, but it was a great way to kind of deal with our waste. Liability insurance. If you're thinking you want to have a learning center, or you want to have school groups, or you want to have an on-farm store, liability insurance, that's fine. But there's other hidden costs that you're going to want to check with your municipality about. Your water has to be drinkable out of every tap, for example. I worked on a farm that hosted school groups, and it turned out that our laneway was not considered good enough for a fire engine, and we needed improvements to the laneway, something to that effect. So, really make sure if you're planning on bringing people right to your farm that your farm is equipped to handle them. All right. How will you promote your product? The first kind of chunk there of bullet points really refer to kind of traditional marketing approaches. And I would really say that at this point in time, that's just the beginning stages. And there's a lot more creative and cheap ways to spread the word. So, print, mailing flyers, producing brochures, posters, that kind of thing, putting advertisements in newspapers and magazines. Maybe you have bags with your name and logo on them, that kind of thing. Maybe you're even going to go on television, that kind of stuff. However, there's other ways to get really good attention, and the difference can be with some of these is that you can connect on a deeper level with your customers. So if you are looking for free media attention, it can be fairly it can be feasible, and I'll give you some examples in a moment. Social media, of course, is if you don't feel like you have a handle on social media, it's probably time to learn how to do so. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, blogs, that kind of thing, Pinterest. Website, and not just have a website, but learn or make sure that you work with somebody who already knows about meta tags and search engine optimization. So hello Nicole, if I want to make sure that when somebody types in grass-fed beef that my website pops up first, there's actually ways that you can do that through search engine optimization. And I have no idea how to do it, but I have a web guy, which kind of goes back to one of the things we talked about in production, which is that you can't do everything, and focus on the things you're good at and hire somebody to do the things you're not good at. And word of mouth, which I call trust by proxy. So I'll chat about that as well in a little bit more detail. So when we got started, you know what? I'll just tell you the whole story of how we got started with marketing when we get to my page. It's right there. Okay, so things that we did when we got started to get customers. So we started very, very small. That would be the first thing I would recommend, especially if you're new to farming, because if you produce something and it turns out to be crap, but you've produced a lot of it and sold it to a lot of people, then you've shot yourself in the foot. So I always advocate for a small start, because one of the ways to grow your market is just by word of mouth. And if you produce something that's good, word of mouth will grow your business for you and the number is apparently 11% a year. And that's a very sustainable growth rate as well for your farm. One thing we did, so we started the first two things we started producing were pastured turkeys and pastured pigs. And I was renting land on another organic farm that had vegetable CSA with a good sized vegetable CSA. So we asked that farm if we could market our products to their customers, and they were more than happy to have us do that because it increased the value of their own CSA to their members, so that they could say, hey members, we can get you organic pastured turkeys. So it was good for them and it was great for us. I call that piggyback marketing. So if there's something you're producing and you can think of another farm that has an established market, it might be mutually beneficial for the two of you to work together. Even if you're producing the same thing. When we got into grass-fed beef, most of the producers I knew were sold out, and they were happy to refer their overflow customers to us, which is amazing. We are just in that kind of a sector where farmers are generally very happy to help one another out. Yeah, and I was going to mention a little bit more about trust by proxy or word of mouth marketing. So the idea there is, say I sell a turkey to somebody and they go home and they have an amazing Thanksgiving turkey dinner, they're going to tell people about it. And maybe it took me a lot of work to get that customer. Maybe I had to take them for a farm tour or answer 16 emails about how I raise my turkeys. But once I have that customer satisfied, now they are on my marketing team. And if they had a positive experience, they are going to go off and tout the benefits of your products to other people. And those people, having heard about the farm from somebody they know and trust you by proxy. So that's the wonderful value of the spin-off effects of word of mouth. It's just how do you get those initial customers, right? So something else that we did when we were getting started, when we began our winter CSA, I started with 10 friends as my first year, just friends, as a way to kind of pilot my CSA and make sure I had a good system, good products. The following year, we wanted to jump to 40 members, and so how did we get those members? We put up brochures, and we actually surveyed our members, which you should do at the end of the season, to figure out, how did you hear about us? Nobody saw a brochure. Everybody came to us because they had read about us in the newspaper. So what we did when we moved up to Neustadt, Ontario, was we found some reason to get into the newspaper. In fact, I think it was just we were kind of farming the way it used to be done or something. It was farming in an old-fashioned way or something like that. And rural newspapers are sometimes quite eager to find local stories. And they put a huge article about us in the paper with a big picture. And that worked super well. Another kind of similar thing we did, there's a new a certification called Bee Friendly Farming, and it's very easy to become certified. And it's kind of like a self-certification thing. It's just a way to improve awareness about bee habitat, bee health. So as soon as it came out, we decided to become bee-friendly farmers. But what I did on top of that was, as soon as I got my certification, I wrote the local papers. First, I wrote a press release. I wrote it all myself so that I conveyed what I wanted to convey and sent it out everywhere. And we must have been in 3 or 4 local magazines and papers about Grey County has the first bee-friendly farm. Like, we were the first ones in the county. So that was awesome. So I really leveraged that little thing that we did and spread it out to the media, because there's a real difference between a piece of advertisement that you pay for and a full-on article. People don't inherently trust a product just because there's an advertisement about it, but if they connected to us through that article, then I find that to be very, very effective. So a couple other things that we do on our farm as part of our marketing strategy. There's just a few screenshots on this page. The top one there with the blue bags, that's myself and Leah, who is in the room. This was the year we had 40 members, and you can see those blue bags there. Every other week when we deliver our shares, they come in these blue bags. They have our logo right on them. And so all week they see that bag. They probably use that bag to do their other grocery shopping, so it travels around with them. It's a great way to kind of get our logo out there. As you can see, well, maybe you can't, but we have an online store. So we started doing e-commerce about 3 years ago, just as a way to really minimize the human error that I found was coming when I was just taking orders over email. But it makes it extremely easy for people to purchase our foods. They just go online, click, click, click. It says when it's going to be delivered. It helps me manage my inventory. I wish I would have done it way sooner. And it doesn't have to cost too much to start. We also have just this week, we will be shipping food via courier for the first time. Just as a way, if members or if customers miss the delivery and they still really want our produce, or our product rather, I can ship frozen meat now with FedEx or Pure later. So I'm excited about that. And then we have a Flickr page, and I don't know if that's out of date, but you can click on our Flickr page right from our website and go see all the photos. So if you're really trying to get a sense of our farm when you find us online, I think those photos do a really good job of just giving you it's like a farm tour, but from the comfort of your own home. And people have told us that they found that to be very authentic. Just want to make sure I've said everything about our farm that is maybe important about as far as marketing is concerned. Yeah, I would say one other thing would be to, what program do I use for my online store? We use EasyCart. We started with WooCommerce. It didn't work for the type of distribution system we have. Maybe it would have, but we had no luck with it. So I found EasyCart to work for us. Now, I would say that yes, EasyCart. Thank you. Put some consideration into how you plan on marketing, and make sure it matches the level of production that you're at. So if you're very small and you don't have to sell that much food, make sure your marketing efforts don't exceed what's necessary. I see that some people go the other direction. They go overboard. They have waiting lists 3 times as long as what they actually need, and yet they're still giving farm tours when they could maybe be out there producing food. So it's just a little piece of advice there. Okay, so just a few reminder summary points. One is that markets change, and so research never ends. You can always be doing market research. When we got started, we had we were not, there were not a lot of other competitors, and so selling out was quite easy. But as more and more farmers come onto the scene, we have to be on our game and say, well, how can we improve and make our experience better for customers? How can we make it easier for them to get our products? Are there packaging options that might make what we do more enticing? Should we start doing home delivery with vegetables? All those questions. So I got an email from a very established CSA farmer, probably the first in my county. Been there for 20 years, sells out every year. And this year he's really struggling to fill his shares. And it's probably time to do some market research, because obviously the market has evolved in the last 20 years. Monitor the success and failure of your promotional efforts. So when I put out a newsletter, I do quarterly newsletters, and then I can monitor with Google something or other. On my website, it'll tell me, how many people went to my website after they opened the newsletter, and how long did they spend on each page, that kind of thing. And then I can sort of tweak my website to make sure that it captures their attention and focus, funnels them to the shop page. And when you do run into negative feedback from a customer, this is an opportunity for you to really show your stuff. I work with all kinds of different businesses, for my inputs, and I can't stand it when somebody, when I'm not, if there's a problem, if they don't take the appropriate measures to make it okay. And when they do try to make it okay, I feel much more appreciated as a customer, and that means a lot to me. And those are the people I want to give my business to. So I forget what the product was. We had somebody who was unhappy with the quality of one of the cuts of meat or something. I made sure to give them 25% off of their next order, and offer them a full refund if they were not happy the next time around. So just make sure you have a strategy for dealing with customers who are not satisfied. As far as setting your price goes, you are going to have to figure out what factors influence the price that you're going to charge for your product or service, and you're going to have to figure out your cost of production. Now, we will be talking more about how to do that in the financial management webinar. But you may also find that there are other things that people will pay more for, that you might be able to provide. So I just threw up a picture there of our eggs. That's the real color of our eggs, um, and they're astounding. And so the question is, are people going to pay more for these eggs? And it might depend on how or on where they're sold, right? If I just sell them um, in a closed carton at my CSA pickup, maybe nobody's going to want to pay more for them. But if I think about how to get them into a kind of boutique food shop, maybe I could make a whole lot more money on them. So, yes, there you go. So I just want to mention this Organic Farmer's Business Handbook one more time. It's written by Richard Wiswall. This is his farm, Kate Farm. It's about 22 acres. They do organic vegetables, herbs, and flowers. They market to a co-op. They have restaurant sales and stores, and so on. But he has a great section in his book on figuring out your price, figuring out your cost of production so you can set your price. Like I was saying, you never want to copy somebody else's prices because they might have a much lower cost of production than you. They might have a lower mortgage payment. They might be twice as close to the market and have lower transportation costs. You don't know any of those things. You have to figure out what it's going to cost you to produce your product, and then make sure it's in line with other competitors. And again, we'll discuss that in more detail next time. But yeah, what will people pay more for? Will they pay more for eggs that are turquoise and terracotta? Will they pay more for home delivery, for packaging, presentation? We used to sell our meat in garbage bags. It just seemed like the easiest thing to do. They all fit in the freezer very well. On pickup day, we would drive into Toronto and give people a bag of meat in a garbage bag, and the meat tastes the same. But I think it was I think for the extra $1 it cost us to put it in a cardboard bag and then stamp it with a stamp is I just think it implies that the value of the meat is greater. There are certain products where packaging is more important than the product itself. Like if you're thinking of herbs and maybe producing herbal teas, I drink a lot of herbal tea, and it's really, I don't find myself saying, oh, that's my favorite tea, but I'm very drawn to the artwork on a box of tea. So there are certain things that it's all on how it's presented. Of course, freshness, or how unique or on trend are your products. So just in summary, you want to make sure that you have a plan to deliver what people want in the right amount, at the right time, to the right place, at the right price, and that is your marketing plan. Okay, so as mentioned, next time is financial management, and I will stop there, and that gives us 10 minutes for questions. So if anybody has any questions about marketing, please go ahead and type those in the box. A question about holidays. How important is it to give away gifts to customers on holidays? I've never given away a gift to a customer on a holiday, but I get gifts from my customers on holidays, so I personally think that's how it should go. Yeah, I've never done that, but I will say that anytime you can make a customer feel special, it's really, really worth it. So if I've had a CSA customer who's been with me for 5 years in a row, putting a little thanks for farming with us, thank you card in their next, CSA bag, something like that. So I would, although I've never given a gift away, freebies are a really good way to get have customers be loyal to you. It makes them feel good. So I think it's a great idea. I will also caution people against putting things on sale. I don't think that's a good way to promote your food. I don't think you should ever drop the price of something to move it more quickly. You can try adding value to it, but going that discounted route is never wise. Understand. I'm not sure I understand Kate Hamilton's question, but you're understanding the part about doing the part you're good at and enjoy. How many people and combinations of skill sets for 2 acres? It's a really tricky size because usually 2 people could easily grow on 2 acres. But if those 2 people are both in need of a higher than minimum wage paycheck, it's an awkward size. So just in terms of efficiencies, you probably are limited to 2 people, um, unless you're doing very, very high-end products. I hope that helps. If not, type, oh, there we go. For example, marketing is a type of, oh, so many questions. Give me a second, folks. I'm just trying to find the answer to that the second part. Yeah, I would again, Kate, I would say that with 2 acres, I don't know of too many farms with complete teams of different people, but you would likely still have an accountant. And if it's you and one other person, you could between the two of you, and I see this often with, say a husband or wife team, what is it that each of you is going to take on the farm? It's always a good idea with any team that's bigger than one, so that people have very concrete roles, so they know what they're responsible for. Okay. Um, the questions keep moving on me. Okay. Any unique ideas for marketing maple syrup? Off the top of my head, no, but maybe other people could type some in. One thing I've seen is very on trend right now is selling maple sap, which is just weird to me, but people buy it as a drink, and it's probably far more. You have to deal with bulk and perishability, but this idea that you can go to the farmer's market and actually just sell the sap to people, that's a really big thing right now. Is there a most cost-effective way or place to sell? Yeah, it's a bit too, Carolyn's a bit too general, but go ahead and try to do, maybe give me some context for that question. I will say, if you're trying to, think about increasing your visibility as a general rule in the beginning. So if you're going to a farmer's market, you're visible to people, but don't, can you hand out literature while you're there? Getting in the paper is increasing your visibility. I do radio spots for local radios all the time, just because for an hour of my time to do an interview, people are going to hear my voice and hear the name of my farm. So anything like that where you can reach the most people. Does anyone have any ideas about how to maintain consistency in your marketing efforts among all the other stuff that's going on in your business? I'm a little unclear on that question, but I think it is a very good idea to make sure that you don't let your customers forget about you. So if you're thinking about products that the idea of magnets for the fridge. I've done farming quotes that go on people's fridges because every time they open the fridge, they think of me. Quarterly newsletter. So I have a rule, although sometimes I have nothing to say, I always put out a quarterly newsletter. That way people are not going to forget about me either. And then question about current marketing restrictions. I will just lead you to the right. It really depends on, I think you're in Kingston, but go to the Egg Farmers of Ontario, the Chicken Farmers of Ontario, and the Turkey Farmers of Ontario, and they can help you. It's 100 for eggs, it's 50 for turkeys, and you'll have to research the artisanal chicken, the new artisanal poultry program that the chicken farmers are implementing right now. And I hope that answers that question. For maple syrup, how come you never see it advertised or marketed outside of maple syrup season in the spring? I think people sell out. Um, they are trying to push it so fast in the beginning, and then get it out of their hands because inventory spoils. Um, you can buy maple syrup in self-sealing, like in containers that seal, and then it should be good forever, but sometimes it's not. We also buy our maple syrup from Mennonites who freeze it, and so because it's not actually canned, so it's perishable. Um, and so, do you want to freeze something for 8 months? You'd rather just get it gone. So it's the same with us. We try to sell our meat within the month that it comes off of pasture. So this is something I should maybe mention. Um, the way that we sell our meat is we try to sell everything before an animal leaves the pasture. So in January, February, March, this is when I'm going to send out newsletters saying, okay, our store is open for the year. Please place your orders. And I aim to have a deposit laid down by my customers, which provides me with cash flow for the year. My animals don't come off pasture until the fall, but by that time I found a market for all of my meat. So I have most time in those February, March. That's when I have the most time to direct towards my marketing efforts. So that's when I try to line up my customers for the year. And then when the meat's ready, I don't have to hang on to inventory because it's a liability. It can never get better, it can only get worse. So get rid of it right away, whether it's maple syrup or something else. Okay. How do you get on the radio? If you have a local radio station, like rurally, there's always community radio. That's how you do it. Um, and I'm not sure of other shopping. I don't. Oh, Nadia, there is. I don't know. A shopping cart for. Like a shopping cart that is CSA members. There are so many. What I did with EasyCart was I actually worked with a web designer to customize it for me. So he plugged in new code so that it was exactly what I wanted. There are programs out there that are actually made for CSA farmers. So the names of which I can't recall, but they do exist. Another good place to do some marketing are with, what we have here is something called Eat Local Grey Bruce, and it's a county-wide organization that takes care of distribution for farmers. So there's one website, you have a page on the website with everything that you produce. That website manages your inventory, and they take care of distribution as well for a fee. But it's a great way to, if you're having trouble finding your own markets, see if there's an organization like that in your area that you can liaise with. I really am so excited that other people are putting in suggestions as well, because marketing takes so much creativity. How do you figure out what to do to get people's attention and figure out what is unique about what you do? And this is an example of how when farmers, it's really good to be networked because you do so much better when you're working in a group than when you do alone. Okay, it's 12:59, so Keely, I think I shall. Oh yeah, thank you, Keely. We didn't have time to actually go to the FarmLINK website today, which I should have. But if you go to FarmLINK and look at the marketing section, there are all kinds of resources there as well for you to have a look at. Yay, Keely. Thank you. So it's 1 o'clock. I think I shall turn it back over to you.
Thanks so much, Tara. Thanks everyone for participating and such a vibrant group of people. Just want to let everyone know about the next webinar to register online. Tara will be doing the next one on the financial management, which is in 2 weeks on February 27th. And the last one, loans and financing, on March 13th. So to register, and I will get the link up about this recording. I'll put it on the webinar page at the bottom. And that's also where you'll find the first one if you missed it. And again, if you want to see any resources that we've mentioned developed, or you've got more questions you'd like to get answers for it, send me an email at keely@farmlink.net and I can get them together. Thank you so much, Tara. Everyone wants to give a little like thumbs up, yay, in our chat box. We really appreciate all
Bye.
your knowledge and time. Thanks, everyone.